mutiny led by Yevgeny Prigozhin, the founder of the Wagner mercenary group, may have lasted less than 24 hours, but it might end up having repercussions beyond Russia. The unprecedented challenge to Russian President Vladimir Putin by Prigozhin has exposed cracks in his leadership. While this weakened image of Putin could aid Ukraine's counteroffensive against Russia, it could also force his allies such as China to rethink their ties with Moscow. Prigozhin's Wagner forces seizing control of parts of Russia's Rostov-on-Don city and sending troops towards Moscow could be seen by China as Putin's incompetence, argue experts. They fear that Beijing might perceive the Wagner chief's momentary success as the Russian president's failure to keep a rogue element and his regime in check. Rana Mitter, professor of the history and politics of modern China at the University of Oxford, expressed these concerns when he told the Moscow Times that China will look with great concern at recent events in Russia. In particular, they are likely to have fresh doubts about how unified Russian forces are, as well as the overall capacity Putin has to control his regime. Appearing to have lost control of the country in front of Beijing might be a serious blow to Putin, who now faces isolation from the West and relies heavily on China's political backing. Putin has spent years building up a strongman image and strengthening Russia-China ties, which the two nations declared as a no-limits partnership on the eve of Moscow's invasion of Ukraine. A dent in the China-Russia ties could also derail their plan to cast themselves as a powerful tandem challenging the US hegemony on the global stage. Experts also argue that the post-Wagner mutiny Russia could see itself becoming a subordinate to China in the relationship, as it may become more reliant on Beijing's support. Livia Paggi, who is the managing director and head of political risk at JS Health, which is a global consulting firm, told the Moscow Times that this incident cements Russia's status as a junior partner. Paggi says that Russia has already become completely dependent on China for things such as oil and gas sales, and it will be even more so now. After facing Western sanctions, Russia had to divert its oil and gas supply from Europe to Asia, particularly to China and India. Russian energy supplies to China hit record highs over the past year, with Moscow replacing Saudi Arabia as the largest exporter of crude oil to China. However, Beijing is yet to commit to Moscow's new multi-billion-dollar gas pipeline named Power of Siberia 2, which would take gas from Russian fields that previously supplied Europe. While Xi is yet to make any comments on the situation in Russia, Chinese officials have described Wagner's aborted rebellion as Moscow's internal affairs.
提到的这个瓦格纳集团的事件是俄罗斯的内政。作为友好邻邦和新时代全面战略协作伙伴，中方支持也相信俄罗斯能够维护国家稳定，实现发展繁荣。中俄各层级保持着密切良好的沟通。至于你提到的具体通话，我没有可以提供的消息。
Chinese state media Global Times even dismissed the divisions in Russia as an illusion being exploited by the West. This came after China's Foreign Minister Qin Gang met Russia's Deputy Foreign Minister Andrei Rudenko in Beijing on June 26, a day after the rebellion was thwarted. In a readout of the meeting, Russia's Deputy Foreign Minister said that the Chinese side expressed support for the efforts of the leadership of the Russian Federation to stabilize the situation in the country in connection with the events of June 24, and reaffirmed its interest in strengthening the unity and further prosperity of Russia. Observers say that the eventual quashing of Prigozhin's rebellion within 24 hours, although with the help of Russian ally Belarus, may act as a saving grace for Putin in the eyes of Beijing. Meanwhile, the Wagner rebellion has given fresh impetus to Ukraine's counteroffensive. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and his defense minister held a series of calls with key allies, including the US, to discuss Putin's weakness and Ukraine's next steps.